Students, welcome to week 2. It's your first day of the second week, and today we start with some grammar, and we're going to be talking about punctuation today. And we'll try to have some fun with this first day. So here, it's a totally different set of slides from last week's. So you can see some punctuations like this one, period, this one, the quotation mark, the question mark, a hyphen, the semicolon, a colon, and this one is the exclamation mark. Yeah, we're gonna try and have some fun with this. So I might use some slang here and there in this lecture, but I'll try and avoid that at the same time. Anyway, let's have some fun. So part 1, punctuation terms and symbols. Well, I kind of gave it away, haven't I? See if you can still remember them. So you can pause the slide for the moment and see if you can name these punctuations. What's this one? What's this? What's this? What's this one? And this one. If you name this one the period, and this one the question mark, this one the quotation mark, this one the colon, and this one the exclamation mark, and good job. Now see if you know what each one is for and how you use them. If you do, great. This lecture will help you review what each of these are for and how you can use them. If you don't, this is a great place to learn. So let's try another practice. See if you can match the symbols with the terms. Make this a little bigger. There you go. You can pause the video, write down the symbols and the terms, and see if you can match them. I'm going to try it too. Alright, so the first one's a period, and I'm going to try here. Oh, what do I think this is? The comma. Okay, I'll try that. Okay, the third one. It's a quotation mark. Okay. Number 4, it's got 2 dots. Oh, that's... Where is that? That's the colon. Number 5, it's got a dot and a comma. Semicolon. Okay. Number 6, I know. That's a question mark. Okay. Oh, whoops. I knew I made a mistake somewhere. Quotation mark. Where is that? H. Number 7, exclamation mark or point. Number 8, brackets or parentheses. And number 9, the apostrophe. Okay, well, that's my guess. What have you guessed? Alright, let's check the answers. Okay, so you have 1, that's D. Okay, number 2, that is the comma. You can magically match the arrows, so it won't take too much of your time. So number 3 is the quotation marks. Number 4, colon. Number 5, semicolon. Number 6, question mark. Number 7, exclamation mark. Number 8, brackets or parentheses. Number 9, the apostrophe. Okay, so far so good. Did you know you're actually using all these punctuations in your essays and summaries? And you'll be actually using these in your assignments too. That's why we're learning these today. Okay, let's start with commas. So the first one. In this slide, we have a blank line here for the rule. So you're going to write down what you think the rule is. And it's okay if you don't know. The next slide will tell you what the first rule actually is. But for now, we have some practice. You can take a look at these sentences right here. Try to use a comma, and that's this symbol. And try to put a comma in this long sentence and see where the comma should go. I'll do the first one. It reads, Matt threw the ball. It reads, Matt threw the ball and then Peter caught it. So I got my subject and verb and object here, and then Peter, subject, verb, object. See how last week's lesson is helping you? Okay, so I know what this word means, I know what this means, I know what Peter caught it means. So then we have then, and we have and. So we have a conjunction word here. And then. So we have the first clause, subject, verb, object right here. And then we have the second clause here. Okay, where do you think the comma should go? If you put them in between ball and, that's correct. Matt threw the ball, slight pause, and then Peter caught it. There, that's good. All right, you can pause this video and try the next two sentences. Okay. Did you figure it out? Let's try sentence 2. Corpus instructors, so that's my subject right here, corpus instructors, are, and then there's an adjective here. So that's one clause. Are kind. And then we have the students. So this is a way of writing that's a bit more technical. The students hardworking. There's an R here, but in your level, you can just write the R. Corpus instructors are kind and the students are hardworking. So, where do you think the comma should go? Yes, it goes before the conjunction word, and. You have the first clause, corpus instructors are kind, and the next clause, students are hardworking. All right. See if you can use the pattern for the third one. We, subject, went to work. And then we finished early. This is adverb there. So but is the connecting word, and the comma goes right there. See? So the three sentences read, Matt threw the ball, pause, comma, and then Peter caught it. Sentence 2, corpus instructors are kind, comma, and the students hardworking. 3, we went to work, comma, but we finished early. So what's the rule then? Well, the rule is we put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. So the coordinating conjunctions are right here, and these are the words you want to look for. And, but, for, nor, so, yet, and or. And what do these conjunctions do? These conjunctions separate two independent clauses. And the clauses are right here. So we have one independent clause right here. The students were on time. So this could be one sentence. And then here we have the other one. The teacher was late. So the coordinating conjunction puts the two sentences together because these sentences are related. So we read, the students were on time, but the teacher was late. They're related because, well, the students and the teacher are both should be on time, but in this case, the teacher was late. So this is why we use the conjunction but. Okay, let's try the second rule. Okay, here is, what do you think it is? And we have some examples to help you figure it out. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take a look. Each sentence has a comma, so I'll read them out to you. Of course, comma, English is fun, period. Number 2, sorry, comma, we have no bananas. Period. Number 3, Michael, comma, please pass me the salt, period. Number 4, yes, comma, the midterm is happening today, period. Number 5, under the big old table, comma, there was a dog. Let's take a pause for this part and see where the commas are placed. And see if you can figure out what rule it is. Okay, have you figured it out? So again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 sentences. Notice the parts after the comma. English is fun. Number 1, we have no bananas. Number 2, please pass the salt. Number 3, the midterm is happening today. Number 4, and there was a dog. Number 5. Do these look like sentences? Or independent clause? If you think so, you are right. Take a look, for example, number 1. English, subject, is fun, adjective. So there you go, good. We, subject, have no bananas. Number 2, please pass me the salt. So there's a verb, an object, and this is talking to Michael. So that's an independent clause. Number 4, the midterm, that's the subject, is happening today. Is happening today. Good. Another independent clause. There was a dog. So they have a verb. And the subject. So, the words before it then, these are actually introduction words. So, of course, sorry, Michael, yes, and under the table. So the rule goes like this. After introductory words, phrases, or clauses, you put a comma after it. So take a look at the first sentence. Shauna, please be quiet. Where does the comma go? If you put the comma between Shauna and please or after Shauna, that's correct. So you have the complete clause, please be quiet, but you're introducing it. You're telling the person who it is to be quiet. So in this case, it's Shauna. Okay, so please be quiet. Okay, you can pause this video at the moment and figure out where to put the commas for the next 3 sentences. Yes, I have scissors. 3. Inside the gloomy old school, there is a ghost. Slowly, I slipped into the classroom. Take a pause and write these sentences and put the commas there. Have you figured it out? Okay, number 2. Yes, I have the scissors. If you put the comma after yes, that's correct. I have scissors. And that's the introductory word there. Notice that if you read the sentence out loud and try and find the pause, you might get it the first time. If not, try to remember the rule. Put a comma after the introductory words, phrases, or clauses. So look at this one. Number 3. Inside the gloomy old school, there is a ghost. Where should the comma go? If you put the comma after inside the gloomy old school, that is correct. There is a ghost. Where? Well, it's inside the gloomy old school. So that's your introductory phrase right there. How about number 4? Slowly, I slipped into the classroom. Where should the comma go? If you put the comma after slowly, you're right. Here you have I slipped into the classroom. And how did that person slip into the classroom? Slowly. There's an adverb there. And that's the introductory word. It's introducing how I, or this person, slipped into the classroom. So again, the rule is put a comma after an introductory word. So we have 2 rules so far. Connect 2 independent clauses with a coordinating conjunction and putting a comma after an introductory word. More rules to come. Alright. We have some examples again, and see if you can figure out this rule. F1, 2, and 3 sentences. Now we're dealing with commas, see? Take a look at these sentences. You can write them down and see if you can figure out why there are 2 commas in each sentence and where are these commas placed in the sentence. Have you figured it out? A good way to figure this rule out is to read the sentence out loud with the commas as pauses. So, try reading it like this. Number 1, dogs, comma, both big and small, comma, scare me. Let's take a look at the first sentence. Notice they're dogs, that's the subject, and then the verb, scare, and object, me. See that? So the simple sentence could be dogs scare me. Scare me. Right? You have the same subject verb object here. But what kind of dogs? Oh, here we have more information. It talks about both big and small dogs. So it can be a big dog that scares me or a small dog that scares you. But the full sentence reads dogs, comma, both big and small, comma, scare me. So that might give you a clue, you see? There's a group of words that is interrupting the sentence and adding more information here. Let's try number 2. Teachers, especially English teachers, scare me. So, same thing, right? Teachers, subject, verb, scare me, object. So, teachers scare me. Subject, verb, object. And what kind of teachers? English teachers. So, especially being the adverb here. So again, we're adding more information about what kind of teachers scare you. Look at the third sentence. McDonald's hamburgers, comma, which are so delicious, are responsible for my weight gain. Well, what does the simple sentence sound like? We have McDonald's hamburgers, that's your subject, are responsible. So that's your verb, and then weight gain. So McDonald's hamburgers are responsible for my weight gain. See? And then there's an interruption here, which are so delicious. So what about these McDonald's hamburgers? Well, the writer thinks that they're delicious. Just wanted to add it in there. It's using the commas to add it at the right place after the subject. You see? Dogs, both big and small, teachers, especially English teachers, and McDonald's hamburgers, which are so delicious. So the third rule is like this. So we put the comma, 2 of them this time, before and after phrases or words. So this is the part that adds more information or interrupt. You put the comma before and after them. So we have 2 more sentences here for you to try. Take a pause here, write down the sentences, and see if you can put the comma in. After you figured it out, let's read the first sentence. The toast, which was a little burnt, was all I ate for breakfast. Where did you put the commas? If you put it before the which and after the burnt, so before and after which was a little burnt, that's correct. Notice there's a word here that can help you, like words that like which or that. That might give you a signal in the sentence. You can look for the subject first, the toast, and then you can look for a verb, was. So this phrase here that adds more detail about the toast and is interrupting the sentence, you need to put a comma before and after that phrase. How about sentence number 2? Halloween, my favorite holiday, is on October 31st. Where do you think the comma should go? If you put the commas before my favorite holiday, that's correct. Halloween is the subject, and verb is on Halloween is on October 31st. And what about Halloween? Well, the writer says is his or her favorite holiday. So a good way to check this is if you take out the interrupting phrases and the comma, what rest of the sentence should still be a sentence. For example, number 1, the toast was all I ate for breakfast. Right? So you have subject, verb, and then the rest of the sentence. That's number 1. Number 2, let's try it. Halloween is on October 31st. So, again, subject, verb, and then the rest of the sentence. Yep. And so, even if we take out the phrase that interrupts the sentence and the commas, it works. But if you want to add that detail in the sentence, then you need to put in a comma. And it's usually a subject before this, and a verb, and then whatever the rest of the sentence is, and a period. Okay. Let's look at the next rule. Here we have a few more rules this time, and we'll just list them now. So, rule 4, you use commas. So these are a few rules for commas in a list. Use the commas in a list. So we have the school, subject, verb. Well, what is the school? Well, it's old. That's an adjective. We have another adjective and another adjective. So instead of saying the school is old, the school is ugly, the school is scary. You're writing all 3 adjectives in one sentence, so you need to separate each adjective with a comma. In academic writing, it's good to know that you put the comma before the and as well. So it should read, the school is old, comma, ugly, comma, and scary. Okay. Rule number 5. You use commas with quotations. So here it's when people say something and you're recording it as a quote. So he, subject, said, comma, and then use your quotation marks, hi. Here in the sentence, you use the small letter H, and then period, in the quotation, and then the quotation mark, close quote. So that's one sentence. The next sentence. If you start the sentence, yes, you use the capital letter. Also, comma, in the quotation marks, close quote. He said, and then you have a comma, because that's not part of the quote. Again, subject, verb. Quotation marks, I is a capital letter. I've got something to say. Notice the dot is in the quotation marks. So yes, use commas in lists and quotations. And the last one, it's like the introductory word, but you use it to be clear. So cupboards were empty. That's the main clause. But you add more information. Well, which cupboards? Well, it's the cupboards in the kitchen. If you just had cupboards were empty, if you just had this part, you don't know which cupboards. But adding this detail in there, in the kitchen, tells you, oh, it's the cupboards in the kitchen. So that way you are clear. Finally, last rule is about commas. Rule 7, when you pair adjectives. So it's like a list, but here you have one adjective and two adjectives. So instead of saying she had a sad life, or she had a lonely life, you can put them together with a comma in between. She had a sad, lonely life. Now you could put also she had a sad and lonely life. That's also acceptable, but if you are trying to practice commas, you would put the comma in between the adjective pair. If you had 3 adjectives, sad, lonely, and hard, perhaps, so I'd say she had a sad, comma, lonely, comma, and hard life. So we're back to that list again. See? But with a pair, you put the comma between the pair, like that. And these are adjectives. Okay, number 8, rule 8. You use commas for dates. Here you have July, the month, the day, comma, and then the year. So today's date would be July 23rd, comma, 2018, like that. You see? Sometimes you might even put the day of the week. So today's Monday, so Monday, comma, July 23rd, 2018. Did I get that right? Yes. All right. So last rule, rule 9. This is optional if you got a big number like 7 million. You put the commas counting from the right, the first 3 digits. So after 100, you put a comma, and then 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, comma, and then into the millions. So 1,000 would read like this with a comma. 100,000, 1 million, 100,000 would have 100 and then comma 1,000. You see? And then what do you think this would read? I'll make it easier. Let's do this. So here's the 1,000. So 1,000, 10,000, and here's the millions. But you don't need to know that. This is 700 million. So the millions here. There you go. And this is completely optional. But remember, the main rules are paired adjectives, dates, to be clear, to make a list, to separate phrases with conjunctions. So those are the main rules. Now take a look at this sentence. We should be careful with grammar, commas, especially with sentences that can be confusing. Take a look at both sentences. Here's 1 and here's 2. What do you think sentence 1 means, and how is it different from sentence 2? Yes, if you think that sentence 1 means, oh, okay, we're going to need to eat grandpa. Uh-oh, that's not good. That's scary, see? So this one is telling the reader to eat grandpa. No, that's not good. We're not cannibals. We don't eat people. Number 2, with the comma, see, here we have, let's eat. Let us eat. And this is food, not grandpa. And this is telling grandpa to eat with them. So grandpa is eating food too. Being eaten. So yes, changing the comma would also change the meaning in a lot of your sentences, so be careful. Yeah, let us eat grandpa. Scary. Oh, so again, be very careful with commas. Okay, part 2. Part 2, we're going to talk about semicolons and how to use those. Notice semicolons are not commas. They have some similarities, but we use them for different things. And there are 2 rules for semicolons. And let's start with the first one. Again, read these sentences and see or guess where they would go. The semicolon is this punctuation mark right there. This one. Alright, so you can take a pause, write the sentences, and try to put the semicolons in the right place for each sentence. There's 1 semicolon for each. After you figured it out, let's try the first one. Number 1, Matt threw the ball. Peter caught it. If you kept this as a sentence, it's a run-on sentence. So we need the semicolon somewhere. If you put the semicolon between the ball and Peter, that's correct. You have Matt threw the ball. Peter caught it. So 2 independent clauses. There's no and this time. Notice the comma sentence had and. So compare it with Matt threw the ball, comma, and Peter caught it. Notice there's a and there's a comma. Here, let's just have a semicolon and no and. Let's try number 2. Corpus instructors are kind, the students are hardworking. Where should the semicolon go? If you put the semicolon between kind and the, that's right. Corpus instructors are kind, the students are hard-working. Adjective, adjective. Semicolon separates the two independent clauses. Last one. A new sentence. We went to work in a good mood. Our job is fun and engaging. Where should the semicolon go? If you put the semicolon in between mood and are, that's correct. We went to work. We, subject, went to work in a good mood. Our job, that's the subject, is fun and engaging. So two independent clauses, and we need to separate them with a semicolon. So what is the rule? The rule is we need to put the semicolons between two independent clauses. So here are the sentences again. Matt threw the ball. Peter caught it. These clauses are related but independent. They can be sentences on their own. Matt threw the ball. Can put a period there. Peter caught it. Can also be its own sentence. But if you put them together as independent clauses, without and like a conjunction, you use the semicolon. Number 2, corpus instructors are kind. That's one clause. Students are hardworking. That's another clause. These are related, court instructors and students. If you put them together without conjunctions, you use the semicolon to connect them. Number 3, we went to work in a good mood. That's one clause. Our job is fun and engaging. That's another clause. If you want to connect them together, use the semicolon. So these connections are made with just the semicolon, with no conjunctions. If you use a conjunction, you would be using the comma instead. So again, it might be like this. We went to work in a good mood, comma, and our job is fun and engaging. So whether you use a comma with a conjunction for independent clauses or use a semicolon by itself is up to you. But remember, if you have a conjunction, you use a comma. If you don't have a conjunction, use a semicolon. And which clauses are these for? Independent clauses. Clauses that can be sentences by themselves. Okay, rule 2. See if you can figure out this one. Again, we have 3 sentences. Use semicolons again. Where do you think the semicolons should go? I'll read the sentences first. Number 1. Most students now use computers to print their essays. However, many still prefer to compose with pen and paper. Number 2. Computers can process any information that can be presented numerically. Consequently, they can process musical information. Number 3. They censor their news. Therefore, what we get from them is unreliable. Here you're going to need a semicolon, and then a word, and then a comma. Look for the word that you're going to put a semicolon before it and a comma after it. It's going to be some sort of transition word. See if you can figure it out. You can pause and write down the sentence and put the semicolon and the comma. Have you figured it out? Let's try the first sentence. Most students now use computers to print their essays. Well, that's your first clause, right? Most students now use computers to print their essays. And then you have a transition word here, however. And then we have the next clause. Many still prefer to compose with pen and paper. This reads a bit like your first reading, no? On your note-taking. Anyway, you have two separate clauses, and this transition word tells us it's a contrast. Most like to use computers, but others still like to write with pen and paper. So the semicolon would go before however, and then there's a pause after that word, so a comma. So that's the first word. Semicolon before however, and comma after it. How about number 2? Computers can process any information that can be represented numerically, comma, semicolon. Consequently, they can process musical information. So we have our first clause. Computers can process any information that can be, so here's a preposition, that can be represented numerically. And then you have the semicolon here. Consequently, comma, they can process musical information. Okay, so consequently is the transition word. Then you put the semicolon before the word and comma after it, if it's in one sentence. Last one, number 3. They censor their news. Therefore, what we get from them is unreliable. So, you have they censor their news, then a semicolon, transition word there. And after the transition word, what we get from them is reliable. So, what we get from them, this whole thing's the subject, verb, and then unreliable. So notice you're looking for the transition word in a long sentence like this. And you're also trying to look for the independent clauses. But this time, these independent clauses are connected with transition words that you need to separate with a semicolon and a comma. So what do you think rule 2 is? What is rule 2? Well, rule 2 is we put the semicolons. We put semicolons between two independent clauses separated by transition words. So, according to this slide in the rules, you use 2 semicolons. See that? So, however, so put a semicolon before and after it. Consequently, semicolon. So here, colon or comma, both are acceptable, but definitely put the semicolon before the transition word, and you can put a comma or a semicolon after it, like this. So notice we're looking for the transition word. However, consequently or therefore. Again, before the transition word, use a semicolon because you're separating the clause, and you can use a comma or a semicolon. I prefer comma myself. After the transition word because it's talking about the new clause, which is related. And here we have rule 3. I'll read the sentence first and see if you can figure out the rule. I have a family all over Canada. Colon. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Burns Lake, British Columbia, Woodstock, Ontario, Freehills, Alberta, and Gatineau, Quebec. Let me give you some hints here with this one. Notice there's a colon here. So it's talking about the different places in Canada. So the colon would, this is the 2 dots, would start to list. A list of places in Canada. So it's going to tell you that list. And notice it's two groups of words separated by the big semicolon here. So if you know your geography or your places in Canada, Winnipeg is in Manitoba. Burns Lake is in British Columbia. Woodstock is in Ontario. Free Hills is in Alberta. Gatineau is in Quebec. So Manitoba, British Columbia, Ontario, Alberta, and Quebec are your provinces. And then Winnipeg, Burns Lake, Woodstock, Free Hills, and Gatineau, those are your cities. So these are cities in provinces. So how many cities do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we have 5 provinces too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the semicolons here, you should have 5 of them too. 5 semicolons, 5 commas. And so these are separating, 4 semicolons and 5 commas. These are separating the cities in its respective province. So you have Winnipeg, Manitoba, Burns Lake, Columbia, Woodstock, Ontario, Free Hills, Alberta, and Gatineau, Quebec. So you can use semicolons as, we can call them super commas. In lists. Stay tuned for another presentation which would explain this a bit more, but this is rule free. If you are listing a bunch of sources with authors in them, or you're listing terms and concepts in your research article, you might end up using this rule, semicolons as super commas in lists. So that's it. That's it for our short lecture today, and your homework is as follows. So practice in your course pack. So these are all in your course pack that you have on Canvas. So read and practice the grammar on pages 78 to 85. You'll be doing an essay this week, so read the essay structure. That's on page 66 to 76. And we have sample essays for you to read and take a look at what elements they are in an essay. For now, just read them. Also in page 66 to 76. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me on Canvas via email or in this discussion forum, or you can post online as well. Again, best of luck. Stay tuned for more videos and instructions for day 1. Good luck.